Yo, okay, so this one's interesting. We're essentially speaking to respect in relationships. So it's really about knowing each other, knowing what each other's values are, knowing what you really want. Oh, there's Leaf here. Swing around. There we go. How's that? Okay, good. No distractions or less distractions. So I received a message from a viewer, and they basically said this. They said that when they're with their partner, when they're with their man, there's a woman that reached out, when she's with her man, they'll be in public and he will be staring at other women, looking at them up and down and just really staring at them. And she feels really, really uncomfortable with this. And when she approaches him about this, he's a little bit disillusioned. And he would ask her, well, what's wrong? What's wrong? And she's not sure how to completely speak to this. So let's go down the rabbit hole just a little bit. We have to have agreements in relationship. We have to have an understanding of what's appropriate and what's not. We have to understand what our needs are and what's important to us in relationship. This lays the foundation. Then we have to learn how to express this truth. If we are really uncomfortable with our partners looking at other people in a sexualized way or behaving in any way that's not appropriate or in alignment with what our values are, with how we wish to be treated in relationship and how we wish for our partnership or our relational dynamic to unfold, we have to learn how to express that in a really clear way. Now, in order to do that with clarity and from a place of not being massively charged, we have to know ourselves and we have to do that deeper work. We have to sift through our fears. We have to equilibrate, neutralize our past wounding, our past pains, really understand why something is important to us. Because we have to understand that every relationship is different. Every relationship comes with a new innovative blueprint that is very individual to that relationship. It's very unique to that relationship. And what makes it unique are the two people that come in, or more potentially, depending on what dynamic you have, but the people that are involved in that relationship and what their needs are. But if you cannot express your needs from a place of clarity and discernment and openness and compassion, then you'll continue to suffer in your pain, because we all know that relationships bring out the best and the worst in us. Relationships, they trigger us, they take us to our edge, they push us. That depth of intimacy that we experience in relationship, it opens us up, and it opens us up to be very vulnerable and very open and raw with what we're experiencing and feeling. And if we have past wounding or trauma, unchecked fears that haven't been resolved, what generally happens is that relationship, that person or people will push us to our edge, and we will react from a place of fear, as opposed to responding from a place of, why is this happening for me? What can I learn from this? How am I contributing to this? What are my belief systems that feed into the dynamic of the relationship? And is how that person is behaving, is that a complete product of their wounding or their pain, or am I feeding into that in some capacity? And then having a conversation with our partners with respect to what's appropriate and what's not for you, and really being open to hearing and listening to what your partner has to say. What that man is doing is not wrong or right, but it could be misaligned or not conducive to a healthy relationship in that particular dynamic, because maybe there's an unspoken pattern of truth. Maybe there's an unspoken belief system. Maybe there's an unspoken expectation that that's not the way he should behave. Whereas in his mind, he has an unspoken understanding that behavior is absolutely fine. And so in order to reconcile this, we have to communicate. Communication isn't everything. Communication is part of the journey of being in an intimate, healthy relationship. How we communicate and where that communication comes from is actually more important. And so the best guidance I could give here is to really look deep into self and ask, firstly, why is that triggering? What insecurities or fears is it bringing up? If it's inappropriate behavior, what defines it as inappropriate? Then I would have a conversation and ask what appropriate and inappropriate behavior is with that partner. What is their perception of what's appropriate and what is not? Because that will then begin to lay foundations of the type of relationship that we want. We treat ourselves and we treat others generally based on unconscious constructs and patterns and coping strategies that we've developed during our developmental years. And we forge these within ourselves, within our mindset, our emotional operating system, our spirituality, our functioning through the world as gospel. When it's unchecked, it runs as an unconscious pattern in the background or an unconscious driver in the background, really determining how we behave. And unless we take the time, invest the energy, and get really clear on asking ourselves, why are we behaving this way? Where does it really come from? It's coming from a healthy place that's open and conscious and aware and really clear? Or is it coming from an unhealthy place driven by past fears that may not have a place in today's world or in today's relationships? Again, remember this is very important. Relationships, our adult intimate relationships, are really something that has been brought to us because of our relationship to our primary caregivers. Now, let me explain it in a different way. Our adult intimate relationships represent what we did and did not receive, both consciously and unconsciously, during our developmental years from our primary caregivers. And we act to mimic or even repel what we experienced based on our level of self-awareness. And so we have to get clear on what our boundaries are and what our agreements are in relationship. Got to know yourself, got to be able to connect to yourself, got to feel yourself through all of this, and then express that to your partner or partners in such a way. It's not about making sense, in such a way that's not emotionally charged. Because if you're doing that, you're more than likely going to be triggering their pain points and their wounding. And then all they're focusing on is the wounding and the pain that's coming up for them, the unsettling feeling, as opposed to what's really happening in the present moment in this adult, intimate, romantic partnership. So, sometimes we want to react and we want to get really defensive and really protective. Ask where that comes from. And if something isn't appropriate for you and you're clear on that, we have to learn how to express that in a healthy way, in a way that's still honoring the other person. I remember in my life, I've spent so much time being charged, being offended, coming from old wounding, as opposed to really seeing a situation for what it is, a beautiful learning curve, a teaching opportunity, an opportunity for growth and expansion, one of the prime directives of being human in this world. When you're in intimate relationship, learn to be the best version of you by clearing all your clutter, creating spaciousness in yourself, knowing what you want, and then bringing that to the relationship. And from there, you can make a really educated, but more importantly, really honest evaluation of what your needs are and where you need to be, and what your preferences are for being in a relationship and what you require from the other. Power and blessings to you, beautiful people. See you soon.